Our next guest planning to discuss his letter to shareholders, the people of the state of Pennsylvania. I want to bring in Senator Dave McCormick of Pennsylvania. Good morning to you. It's nice to see you. You've written this letter. Have your predecessors ever done something like this? Where did the idea come from?
You know, I don't think anybody's done it before, not that I'm aware of, but it just came from, being in business for 25 years and being the CEO of a public company and a large private investment firm. You had accountability. You had to report once a quarter and once a year. What did we promise? What did we deliver? Where did we fall short? What can you expect in the future? And I thought, we've had such a busy year. We made a lot of promises, and I thought this would be a great way to engage with the constituents of Pennsylvania and also be very forthright. Here's what went well, and here's the things we fell a little short and where we hope to improve next year. And that just seems like a good way of ensuring accountability and transparency to the people of Pennsylvania.
Okay, so let's tick through the list of things that worked and the list of things that are still left to do.
Well, I think big picture, I made 10 promises throughout my campaign. I gave a series of speeches. And I think President Trump's agenda and the legislation we've done in the Congress, we made enormous progress on slowing the flow of fentanyl across our borders. Killed 4,000 Pennsylvanians last year. That's been a huge focus and I think a real area of success. There's been a lot of progress on energy dominance and really unlocking energy across Pennsylvania and America. That's a huge deal for Pennsylvanians. Although, as I say in the letter, the one big thing we have to do where I wish we would have moved faster is permitting reform. And the thing that I think we've made great progress on and still need to focus on is through the efforts of the Trump administration and the Congress and the passage of the working families tax cut. I think we've put the American people and working families in a great position to have more money in their pocket. They already have more money in their pocket, but they're going to have a lot more next year. But there's still a lot of work we need to do on healthcare and get those costs down in healthcare, energy prices, housing prices. And then the final area where I give us a pretty poor grade as a country is fiscal. Our deficit, despite bending the curve on our annual spending, we're still out of control. We have $38 trillion of debt. That's I'm new to Congress. I'm 1 year in, but that's an area where we're just going to have to make much more significant progress in the future.
Let's dig into two issues, or maybe three different topics on that list. One actually I think is probably not on the list, but let's talk healthcare first, because that's clearly front and center. Where do you think things really are? And if you were to look at the Republicans' plan, the question about that plan is how, to the extent that it's aimed at trying to ultimately lower costs, there's a market mechanism to it. And so you have to believe that the market's going to work, and you have to believe it's going to happen. But it's not going to happen quickly. I wouldn't imagine. Maybe you think it's going to happen more quickly. And so the question is, where do you think your constituents are going to be 6 months, 8 months, a year from now?
Yeah, I think there's a near term and a long term. And, I think you have to start. I'm not trying to make a political point, but by any measure, the Affordable Care Act made a bunch of promises and it's failed to deliver lower cost, improved quality, or greater access. And we're going to need to reform healthcare in a way that has greater transparency, more competition, and more consumer capability to make choices. That's the only way you're going to drive down cost significantly. And that's going to take a while, just as you say. And even though we didn't create this mess, if you're a Republican, we're now in the majority. We have responsibility for working with our Democratic colleagues to fix it. The near term is a really pressing problem because you have these COVID subsidies, which the Democrats are trying to extend for 3 years in their current form. And I just don't think there's any way Republicans are going to support that. I don't think that's going to pass because they literally give subsidies to folks that are making $500,000 or $600,000 a year. There's a lot of fraud in the system. But I do think there's a possibility of some compromise where you extend the subsidies for a couple years. You got to reform them and cap them pretty significantly. You got to probably have a minimum payment to avoid fraud. And I think there's a real possibility for starting with health savings accounts, which are going to put money in the pocket to help pay down those initial healthcare charges. I'm hopeful. I think we've got a lot of work to do, but I've been part of bipartisan discussions in the Senate where there seems to be a lot of agreement. And I'm disappointed we didn't make more progress at the end of last year, but I'm hoping when we get back in January, there's a path.
Okay, I got a different one for you. You talked about the fiscal, I don't know, you didn't use the word fiscal cliff, but a lot of people are talking about sort of just where we are financially in this country, given the debt that we do have in this country. I don't know if you saw Mitt Romney published a fascinating op-ed over the weekend, I think maybe on Friday, effectively saying, you know what, we actually have to raise taxes, including, he said, on himself, talked about raising taxes via carried interest, changing the estate tax so that the sort of step up in basis upon death, can't happen to the extreme levels that it does, which therefore creates all sorts of other perverse incentives during life, which is to say that some of the wealthiest people effectively are living off of loans so that they don't actually have realized gains. What do you think has to happen on that front? And do you think there's any movement at all afoot in that direction?
First of all, I haven't read that op-ed, so I won't comment. I won't comment on that. But I do think there's three things I can say which I feel some confidence in. One, we are on an unsustainable path. I don't think anyone should dispute that. If you look at debt or deficit as a percent of GDP, it's really on a path it's unsustainable. Now, it may be sustainable for the foreseeable future, but it has to be addressed. Second, in the appropriations bills that we unfortunately didn't pass in the Senate on Friday before we left, or on Thursday before we left for the break, there were 5 bills that if we had passed those, that they would have bent the curve. We would have had spending at or less than last year, less than the continuing resolution. So I hope when we get back to Washington, we can pass those. And I think the only way that we're going to address this growing crisis is to step back and have a bipartisan process that addresses all aspects of it. And unfortunately, that's going to require a level of discipline and bipartisanship that doesn't exist at the moment. But we're headed down a path where we're going to hit the skids, and we're going to have to address it. And that's why in my letter, I say, listen, I want to highlight we're not making progress on this, and it's a real challenge.
Senator, the journal makes a point that, I mean, it is always an attractive, I don't know, in terms of virtue signaling, to think that rich people are going to be able to make up the difference, but there's not enough money there, no matter what you do with stepped up. It might help a little bit, but you need to tax everybody more.
Yeah.
And that's where you need to ask a fundamental question. Is our tax system right now, as progressive as it is, are higher taxes the answer to the deficit issue, or does that impede growth, which might be the only way to grow out of it? So it's the same tired story that we have again and again. The rich don't have enough money to make a real difference without going way down into middle class or people to address the deficit that way. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I'd say 2 things, Joe. Number one, we've got to have pro-growth policies that are going to get our economy at 3-4+ % a year. I think we have those policies. I think with the deregulation at our back, the energy dominance, the foreign investment that's coming in, I'm expecting we're going to have really strong growth next year, and that's going to create huge opportunity. And I don't think we're going to reduce taxes in a way, the numbers don't work to actually address these challenges in a more fundamental way. But I do think there's a point here, which is despite that incredible growth and opportunity, there's a lot of people that were left behind. And that's what President Trump ran on. That's what I ran on, to make sure that those working families were participating in this great growth in the economy. And that's not happening enough yet.